number of planning panels. And can I introduce Jan Morell? And Jan, could you give us your background? Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, Jan Morell. I am normally the chair of this panel, and I also chair other panels and sit as an expert member on other panels and sit on the state panel. My previous position, full-time position, was as Commissioner of Land and Environment Court for 14 years. I was a corporate manager, head of planning at Liverpool City Council, and held senior positions in the department for many years. Thank you. And I have no conflict of interest.
Garth, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll introduce myself. My name's Garth Patterson. I'm a panel member. I'm a landscape architect, urban designer, and I'm a practitioner, and also on several design and state design panels throughout metropolitan Sydney. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan's our community rep today. Jan, could you please?
Jane.
My name's Jane Van Hagen. I live locally. I've lived in the Crows Nest area for 30 years. I'm an architect working as a project manager in a small practice. I am the community representative on this panel, and I must announce that I've got a perceived conflict of interest with item 3, so I will step away from that one.
Thank you. I've mentioned I don't have any conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I say that because of the COVID restrictions, the panel members have inspected the site individually rather than our normal procedure of en masse in the council bus with the assistance of council officers. However, we have had a very detailed briefing from the council officers just before this meeting. We do have extensive reports which are amazingly professional and addressed every issue. And we do have a number of people presenting to us today. There not being any, can I also say that other than what you've heard, there are no other conflicts of interest. I'm wondering then if we might move to the first item on the agenda, which is 206 Blues Point Road, Barnes Point. And we do have some people addressing us on that item. Our first person is
David Rickling.
David.
He's the applicant, but we'll hear the submitters first. Yes.
I'm wondering if we have Ian Curdy online.
Yes, you do.
Thanks, Ian. I'm wondering if we can hear from you, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, Your Honours. And I would like to say that I'm a local resident, and I'm also representing the views of Lavender Bay Precinct, which has considered this item on a number of occasions. I and Precinct would believe that the hours should not be approved. There's already an excessive noise, nuisance and amenity impact on the nearby residences, and this would only be exacerbated by extension of hours. They will exacerbate the impact on the already and approved and inappropriately approved gaming room, which has gone through against Precinct's wishes. This applicant has nothing in it for the community, and as such, we'd like to see the hours not extended, please.
Is that your full submission, sir?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you for being so brief. Janie Lee. Can I say, Janie, that we have heard your presentation. We have heard your, which you submitted. And we did that prior to, we heard the video and we also heard the audio. So,
fantastic, thank you. Thank you to the panel for the opportunity to speak. I am the owner of 167 Blues Point Road. My property is directly opposite the Commodore. My bedroom faces the outdoor terrace. It is approximately 20 metres away. My experience, along with consultations with neighbours, has confirmed that the terrace consistently emits noise levels above what is permitted in the liquor licence. As a result, myself and neighbouring residents have had our sleep and general enjoyment of our homes significantly impacted on a regular basis. Therefore, condition I4, placing limits to the operating hours, is necessary to protect the health and well-being of surrounding residents. With regards to the Newbury principles, the original DA includes modifications to the outdoor terrace. Therefore, the operating hours are reasonably related to that development. Now, specifically regarding the Commodore's activities, as you would have seen, I have sent through video evidence of recent examples of the noise violations. The Commodore holds weekly events on the outdoor terrace, including trivia nights on Tuesdays, dance music evenings on Fridays. The recordings I have taken from my property during these evenings indicate noise levels of close to 70 decibels generated by the amplified sound and patron noise. These levels of noise are recorded from 8 p.m. through to closing hours or midnight. Now at 70 decibels, this is approximately 10 to 15 decibels at least higher than background noise, whereas the requirement is that they remain below 5 decibels. The current DA does not sufficiently safeguard against these noise impacts. The report from David Hoy states that there is no additional potential for adverse impact arising from the use of the outdoor terrace. It also states that there are new conditions requiring the doors between the indoor area and the outdoor terrace, and also that the closing of the doors of the outdoor terrace by midnight will address any noise disturbance. However, this is untrue. The outdoor terrace has a large capacity, hosting a significant number of patrons. It is where the big screen TVs and speakers are set up. Merely closing the doors between the indoor area and that outdoor terrace does nothing to restrict the noise released from this terrace. Enabling the Commodore to operate for longer hours will only exacerbate the noise problem and cause additional significant health and well-being impacts during the sleeping hours. These considerations need to be taken into account to empower the panel to restrict these operating hours of a venue. It is imperative for surrounding residents to ensure this noise disturbance is limited, particularly during hours late into the evening when it matters most. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Walker, are you there?
One on the screen.
There's one there. Victoria, could you unmute yourself, please?
Victoria, are you behind your name on the screen? Are you plugged in?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I was speaking into the mute.
Thank you.
I would like to express my complete agreement with the last two representatives about the extension of hours and the impact of noise. I suggest any members of council might like to walk down the Blues Point Road on a Friday or Saturday evening. The combined noise of the Commodore pub and the Greenwood Plaza amplification actually causes your head to vibrate. They are both so loud and so intrusive, and it makes normal conversation within the building opposite impossible. I'd also like to address the executive summary provided by David Hoy. And the reasons given to the panel for recommending that you approve this DA. The reason given by the developer is that that your original decision to change the hours was improper because there was no rationale behind that. The rationale behind the your decision is quite clear in that the intrusion on the amenity of the residents is significant. And that's noise, but it's also the impact of people coming, the type of activity that's going to occur there. Now, you made this decision in October. In November and December, the press revealed that there was a move of money laundering from the casino in Sydney as a consequence of the investigation, and that local pubs and clubs were building up their poker machines to accommodate money laundering, and that this was happening all over the state. And there were stories in the paper of people carrying bags of thousands and thousands of dollars in cash to put through poker machines. One woman in Canberra was said in one club to have spent over $1 million putting cash through poker machines to launder the money. McMahon's Point is a residential area. The report from council does not refer to the building directly opposite the pub where I own property and the last speaker owns property. The impact on people living in that building. Beside that is a preschool on council, in a council building. The impact, the potential problems with criminal activity in a residential area with people carrying large sums of money, with the sort of aggression that occurs on the street afterwards, it is going to change the whole climate of that area, as well as ruin the reputation of North Sydney Council and that resident place as for people to reside. So it's highly damaging. Now, that information was not available to the panel last October. It is available now. It is available to council, and it's a continuing problem. And I believe that the original decision should go back to council and be rescinded to actually allow a casino type activity, a money laundering through poker machines. The owner of the pub family member produces those poker machines. This is the second pub in this area that owner has taken over. It is extremely disturbing and alarming to people who live in the area. And I think it's a responsibility of the panel to take account of those matters that are simply not mentioned in the council's submission. So they're basically the reasons that I've given. I think that you made your decision without the information of what was going on. And I think that it needs to be reinforced, the decision to limit whatever is going to happen there, to protect the children across the road, the people that live there, the residents, the reputation, and the property values of the suburb. Thank you.
Thank you. Just by way of comment, we haven't made our decision yet. Our decision will be made after we've heard the various submissions, and will be made at the conclusion of this meeting.
I beg your pardon, I was referring to the decision by, I may not have been the same panel, but it was a state planning panel in October of last year to allow the original DA to go ahead.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we can hear from the applicant now, Mr. David Rippingill.
Hello, panel.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, so I'll just try and respond to some of those submissions as I've written them down. Firstly, it's my view that this is being mischaracterised as an extension of trading hours. As noted in our application, that terrace area can presently trade until 1 a.m. That's noted in Council's planning report as well. What we seek to do is reinstate those trading hours to 1 a.m. on the terrace. It's our view that that limit was beyond power because we were not seeking to intensify that outdoor area. Yes, I agree that there are works there. None of those works impact on the use of that area in a way that worsens the impact and that would provide a nexus to imposing conditions on the use. As for the comments regarding the location and the activities being undertaken, obviously this is a on the periphery of the CBD area for North Sydney. It's not a strictly residential area. There will, of course, be some overlap between those uses and some impacts between those uses, but of course they have to be managed appropriately. We've submitted an acoustic report and a robust plan of management seeking to deal with those issues. As for the relationship with poker machines and gambling and crime, obviously there's no evidence of those issues being linked with this hotel in front of the panel. I'm not aware of any. Hotels are permissible, poker machines are permissible. As the panel would be aware, gaming related impacts are not permitted to be considered under the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. So that's the extent of those things that can be considered. In relation to addressing those impacts generally, it's noted in our submission and in this application, we'd proposed to close bifolds that were approved around the periphery of the terrace. They were approved as part of the last application. There was no requirement to close those in the acoustic report, but we've proposed to close those at midnight as part of this application to reinstate that 1 a.m. trade. Evidently, if this application were refused, our client would be losing a significant portion of trade. I doubt that the consent in this form would be taken up, and most likely we would be instructed to reformulate the application in a way to ensure that there is absolutely no link to that terrace, which could be readily achieved. So I think the best outcome for the community would be for this application to be approved for the restrictions on the terrace with respect to closing the bifolds around the perimeter at midnight and the closing of the pergola at 10 p.m, essentially insulating that outdoor terrace from the local community to be the best outcome available. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there any members of the panel have any questions of Mr. Ribbingale?
Yes, I would like to ask a question. Thank you, Chair. I note that previously there's a plan of management as part of the conditions, which requires also a register of complaints. And the additional course of action we could take would be to have a community liaison committee. Would you care to respond to that, Mr. Rippinggill? This is often brought in where we have hotels and residential activities that are close together. And it would only require to be convened once a quarter or thereabouts, but it gives the community an opportunity to be able to directly liaise with the management of the hotel. And if they have any concerns, that these can be addressed, or and it also goes hand in hand with a complaints register.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I understand the additional requirements beyond what's already in our plan of management. There are complaint provisions in there that are required to be actioned, and the complaint register available to police and council. There is, as a consequence of that, there's already a mechanism for the local community to contact the pub. If you could explain how that
what it does is it provides then a direct link with the community so that they can raise issues that they may have from time to time, and for these matters to be addressed, or alternatively, a greater understanding between the co-location of licensed premises and residential properties, which happens often. And in my experience, it serves as a very good venue for this communication between the management of the hotel and the community. As I said, it only has to be convened once a quarter, and it also provides then a much better mechanism than merely a complaints register, which might go to the council or the police, but it then allows management to be aware straight away of issues that the community may have from time to time.
Yeah, well, that complaints register is managed by the hotel, so they would be aware of any issues as they arise rather than on a quarterly basis. I assume the way that this would be convened would be through some kind of mailbox drop or something with the local community to arrange it on a quarterly basis.
Yes, it would be. You'd probably end up having community members that become members of your community liaison committee so that you can deal directly with them.
Yeah, look, I think there may be some value in that. I wouldn't want to see another layer of bureaucracy where the hotel is obligated, in addition to meeting with the police, meeting with council, responding to complaints under the incident register. People can make complaints also to liquor and gaming. People can also just rock up to the hotel and talk to the hotel as well. There's already a lot of mechanisms in place. I'll just be wary about creating another one where people aren't already taking advantage of the mechanisms that are available to them.
Well, I suppose that the benefit is it provides for the direct communication as opposed to going through a third party such as the police or the council.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's not particularly onerous, and in my experience, most hotels or establishments do not have an objection to this.
Look, I'm sure that they wouldn't, if as long as there's some kind of mechanism to make sure that it's actually fruitful. I would expect that once this happens for about a year, there's probably no one that's going to respond or attend on behalf of the community, in my experience.
That may be the case. Yep.
Yeah.
Any other panelists like to ask any questions, David? If not, David, thank you for your presentation. We'll make a determination at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we move on then to item 2?
Can I ask a question, please? Victoria Walker.
Victoria, I'm sorry, we've heard from you.
It was a question to the last speaker about some of the things that he raised. That this plan of management was the reason given by the town planner for approving it, because a plan of management was required.
Now, there is a plan.
But is it a liquor or a gaming plan of management? And looking up the liquor and gaming regulators, it doesn't address the issues that we've raised. Yes.
There is a plan of management.
I've lost it.
I'm sorry if you've lost it, but...
no, sorry, I've lost your picture.
Right.
Yes, here it is.
Thank you. You've had your opportunity to present. There is a condition about a plan of management, and there is a condition that the plan of management be updated, and there is a condition that the plan of management be enforced. What's been suggested is by a panellist, and no, you can't ask any further questions.
All right, thank you.
Can we move on to item 2, please? Aurelia Rodrigo, are you there, a submitter?
My name is, as you said, Aurelia Rodrigo.
Sorry, could you speak up a little bit? We can't quite hear.
Sure. Okay, so I'm the owner of the property at 11 Hazelbank Road, Wollstonecraft, and I've been a resident of the North Sydney Council for the last 7 years at the same property. So firstly, thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. I'm here to object to the DA for 46 Crow's Nest Road in Waverton and ask that the panel refuse the DA in its current form. The council, the council recommendation for approval is at odds with the development control panel, and also it will deviate from the council's previous decision made for property on both Crow's Nest Road and Hazelbank Road.
Excuse me, we haven't finished with the first item. I was due to speak. John Terry, I was listed to speak. I registered to speak. I'm here to speak, and you haven't asked me to speak.
Mr. Terry, we don't have your details. I apologise, but it's open to the chair to invite you to address the panel.
I registered to speak to the panel on Monday, and I received the Zoom link to speak.
I apologise, you don't have that on the current run sheet. So
well, then you've completely got it wrong, because I requested to speak.
Sir, could you just calm down, please?
Well,
I will allow you to speak if you just calm down.
Okay. Well, why are we moving on to the next item? If my request is
Mr. Terry, apologies, you are listed against item 2, which is incorrect. I apologise.
Well, in the agenda, item 1 was the minutes of the previous meeting, and item 2 was 206 Blues Point Road.
No, I think he's. That's the previous minutes.
Can we just pause our previous speaker? And sir, can I hear from you, please?
Okay, I'll proceed and I'll settle down. Right. Okay, I'm John Terry, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm co-owner with my partner of Unit 11, 188 Blues Point Road. This has been occupied by adult members of our family, including parents with a baby. It's currently leased to a tenant. Our apartment is directly adjacent and above the outdoor terrace of the Commodore, top floor, street front. It has a direct line of noise transmission of some 20 metres from the outdoor terrace to the bedroom window, like a party outside every night. I have never seen the louvers above the terrace closed, even though that may happen. The Commodore is a very noisy outdoor entertainment venue in the middle of a residential precinct that is nowhere near the North Sydney CBD. Events are held on the terrace. The advertised terrace gig guide for this May includes 3 DJ events, 3 dusk to dawn events, and a Gemma noisy night. The process today seeks to overturn the considered decision of the panel on appropriate operating hours for changes to the building use covered by the original DA submission. I have 3 points about noise, safety, and why the panel should have rejected the council recommendation. On noise, we have been forced to spend several $1,000s on double glazing panels, similarly with other people other than 2 other apartments. The glazing panels do not fully block out sound, and to be effective, require all windows and doors to be shut. Residents of an apartment have a right to fresh air, particularly on a hot summer night. Despite the double glazing panel, I was totally shocked last week to learn that my tenant is using noise cancelling earphones. This is in a building with timber floors that has safety systems, including fire alarms. Now, if people are forced to wear earplugs or noise cancelling earphones, then we have a risk of a catastrophe because they won't hear fire alarms. So seven reasons why the report should be directed. The proponent gives no justification why any outside noise venue should be allowed to operate until 1:30 a.m. 2, there is no reason why council and planning controls should align with liquor licence controls. 3, the outdoor terrace, referred to as a covered terrace, is in fact an open terrace for most of its area and most of its operating time. The first DA was for a whole building DA covering conversion of the car park, changes to the outdoor terrace, building signage, entrance arrangements, electrical and mechanical services, and changes in building use, potentially affecting patronage and noise levels on the outdoor terrace. The technical legal argument suggesting that is somehow part of a building DA, a part building DA, and controls on the outdoor terrace should not be applied is invalid. The council recommendation is based on this invalid technical legal argument, then sidelines and dismisses without analysis community concerns raised. Testing the considered appropriate controls of the previous panel decision undermines the validity of the original approval, mutes potential council and planning ability to control noise, and destroys community confidence in the process. It smells of a practice of proponents leveraging off an existing proposal to gain better business outcomes and grind down the community. Noise levels from the existing operation are completely unacceptable for a residential precinct. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. I apologise for the problem that we had here, and hopefully I don't think it's caused you any inconvenience, and your comments have been duly noted. I notice Mr. Bernard Smith is sitting in the audience there. We've got your late submission. You're not registered to speak, sir, but we have read your document.
Thank you.
Before I move back to item 2, is there anyone else in the woodwork that was registered or maintains they're registered to speak on item 1? Thank you. If not, can I go back to item 2, and item 2 being 46 Crow's Nest Road. And again, can I apologise to the speaker who was in mid-flight when we were interrupted, Aurelia Rodrigo. Could you please continue?
Sure, no worries. So I'll continue. So I just want to call out that I think the council recommendation for approval is at odds with the development control plan. and also deviate from council's previous decision that's made for all the properties on Crow's Nest Road and Hazelbank Road. The council approval of 2 elevated balconies and decking to the rear is unprecedented in the Crow's Nest Road Heritage Conservation Area. I'm not aware of any external balconies being permitted on Crow's Nest Road properties overlooking Hazelbank Road properties, let alone 2 elevated large balconies and decking, which will significantly impact on the visual and acoustic privacy of neighbours. The council report fails to properly consider these serious impacts. And I just want to focus on 2 key areas of concern. So Crow's Nest Road is naturally more elevated than Hazelbank Road. So the house at number 46 already sits above the ground level of our property. And in the proposal, the ground floor deck itself sits more than 1 metre above the ground. So combined with 46 ground level being well above ours, the use of this large ground floor will result in noise travelling directly into surrounding properties, including ours. And I just want to call out that the area of the proposed ground floor deck is significantly large, over 11 metres long and ranging from 4 metres to 3 metres deep, with a high roof over it for all weather use. But also the other elements in the proposal includes a rear balcony on the first floor, which will look directly into adjoining property back gardens and internal living spaces at 11A, 15, 17 Hazelbank Road and all the surrounding properties, affecting the neighbours' privacy and negatively impacting on their comfort and well-being. And the other point is that the DA has many changes to the facade of the building with characteristic elements removed, including changes to the garage. This ultimately undermines the contributory nature of the building itself and really sets a dangerous precedent and opens the floodgate for other contributory items in the heritage conservation area to change the facade of their building as well. So as a resident of the heritage conservation area, we look to members of the panel today to ensure that the DA is in compliance with all the planning requirements. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your submission. C. Fitzgerald, are you there, sir or madam?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you like me to begin?
We would like you to begin. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and panel. Thank you for the opportunity to submit. I'm a resident and owner at 44 Crow's Nest Road, and like others in the area will be significantly and adversely impacted, excuse me, if the proposed DA is approved. We ask that the panel not accept the recommendation of council and refuse the DA in its entirety because of the extent of non-compliance and impact on neighbouring properties. We understand that properties will be renovated and updated. However, such development should be compliant with the planning controls, particularly in relation to a contributory item and in respect of the impact on neighbours. Excuse me. Council should also be consistent in applying these controls. We understand the work that council needs to do, but unfortunately this report deviates from planning regulation and consideration of neighbouring amenity to an extent which is unprecedented. It is directly inconsistent with prior planning assessments of council, and I'm happy to provide detail if time permits. It fails to address or dismisses many community concerns, including from the relevant precinct, without justification or explanation. It ignores relevant matters detailed in the LEP, the DCP and the relevant character statements, and minimises the impact of significant alterations such as the elevation and use of the garage roof, new tandem garage, general bulk and scale, and extensive elevated and covered balconies to the rear. Unfortunately, the report contains errors that have been detailed in submissions to you, as well as irrelevancies such as the reference to Emmett Street. It also contains estimated costings which appear low for a proposal of this size. The impact detailed in the submissions as to bulk and scale, elevated rear balconies, extension of garage and elevation and use of the garage roof are all exacerbated by the fact to us that we followed the guidelines and sit significantly lower than number 46 as a result. The impact on our and others' visual and acoustic privacy and solar access cannot be overstated and is incorrectly diminished in the report. It is also difficult to see the property retaining its contributory item status were the development to go ahead in its current form. The heritage landscaping reports, etc., haven't been published, but the extracts seem at odds with the approach taken by council previously. Again, I can point to specific examples if time permits. The precedent that approval of this DA would set would be detrimental to the area as a whole. There is currently another DA to our north seeking to demolish a contributory item on the basis that it is no longer contributory. We and others purchased in this area due to the nature of the conservation area, including consistency of planning, particularly in relation to contributory items. Also note that since February, the property has been extensively renovated, including in relation to the area proposed to be demolished, and is on the market for sale. We are confused why in these circumstances, council is recommending approval of a DA which will impact on the conservation area and the amenities of long-term residents, particularly given that the recommendation is inconsistent with previous assessments on other properties. We ask the panel to please consider the amenities of the existing residents, as well as the planning regulations that apply to a contributory item in the Crow's Nest Road conservation area, including the detail provided in the submissions to council that have, with all respect, not been adequately addressed in the council report to you. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, panel.
Thank you so much for your submission. We have the applicant registered to speak, Rami Talwardris. Are you there, sir?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to address you in the panel. So I'm the registered architect who's been working throughout the entirety of the DA to get to this point. I'd just like to extend my appreciation to the manner in which this DA has been dealt with. It's been dealt with very professionally, and I believe we are reached a good outcome with council, who have been working with the community and with us as the architect and the owners. And I believe we have arrived to a rationalised design which is in harmony with the site constraints, context and setting. I'd just like to reiterate that the original application has been amended and has addressed all the concerns that are given weight in the assessment against the LEP and the DCP in North Sydney Council. So it is found to be satisfactory to council. I would like to also mention that the satisfaction of council has addressed at large the community concerns within reason, and they have been moderately and relevantly addressed in our final submission. So we have gone through one round of amendments with council, in which the assessment of the final scheme actually confirms that the concerns and issues raised by the submitters have been adequately addressed and considered in the redesign. We have worked quite closely with our heritage consultant, Patrick Wilson, and our town planner, Tony Robb, to bring us to this level of resolution on the project. I would just like to address some of the comments that were raised, that we have actually amended the design to reduce all the concerns of overlooking and privacy, balconies, in which case the western balcony is an existing balcony, and the balcony to the north has been reduced quite substantially to appease any concerns for any noise or anything that could occur. It is quite there just for the northern aspect. And privacy screens have been integrated in our design in an architectural characteristic point of view, taking hints from the Art Deco style, and it's in the form of brise-soleil style brickwork rather than an add-on. If I could just quickly summarize the changes we made to the panel, it might help everybody that may have not seen what's taken place. So the proposed works is a re-alterations to the additions of this 1940s house. It's contemporary, but it's contextual. It's respectful, but it's interesting. So a lot of our approach has been very mindful of keeping intact the front and preserving that facade streetscape. If you've had a look at the plans, you will notice that we've been very sensitive around that, and we believe that we have got a sensible design that does provide amenity for the local community's needs. It's a partial demolition of the rear, which was a later addition, and a heavily modified rear wing and deck. So we're providing a two-story addition, which has been sensitive in the way we do apply that too. There is a link that connects the building, which is quite sympathetic to the existing heritage and landscape character, and does preserve the attributes of the property. The rear addition is well below the existing roof ridgeline, and thus concealed from the public realm. And this was something we did try to achieve in the beginning, and working with council, we have amended that and brought it to a good level. We've responded to the RFI. Just to summarize, with the amended DA, we amended the drawings to achieve a full compliance with site coverage, landscape area, and building height, which were the main and only concerns that were raised with us and council. I could go further into the details, but I don't want to take too much time from the panel. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to go into the details of our amendments. And I look forward to a successful outcome, because we have worked quite extensively to get to a very good resolution on this design. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I just say a couple of things? Firstly, I can assure you the panel has had a very close look at your drawings, as well as doing a site inspection, and you will observe that when there's a few questions forthcoming in a moment. Can I also thank you for your comments about the council staff? We'll pass that on to the council officers, and we're pleased that that relationship has worked out well for yourself. There are some questions the panel has of you, and I'll pass to any members of the panel.
Yes, hello, Jane Van Hagen, I'm the community rep. I just wanted to ask a few questions regarding the treatment of the additional building at the rear in regard to its relationship to the retained conservation contributory item. I noticed that the roof of the flat roof to the rear sits at the same level as the eaves of the front building, of the existing building, and I think it would read better as you've articulated the walls of the joint between the two buildings. I think the roof should also be should express its separation from the existing roof. And I think it would read much better if the roof was lowered, the new roof was lowered below the eaves of the existing roof. And it also, additionally within that query, is it appears to me that the elevations in your 3D visual show that the eaves of the existing building do not appear to be the same as the existing building currently has. Could you comment on the eaves and the roof treatment, please?
Okay. So in response to the relationship between the new eaves at the rear in relation to the existing building, our approach was to, although we are aligning them, there is examples in a lot of projects of this type where the new roof is integrated into the existing rear roof fabric, and that was not something we wish to do. We were quite sensitive that we did want to keep intact that entire roof form, and actually by proposing a more contemporary approach, there is a distinguished difference between what we are proposing and the contributory items, roof form and building fabric. So I do take on your points. I understand perhaps lowering it below that eave may have some sort of more enhanced disconnection from the house, but that's not what we're looking to do. We are looking to still provide some sort of connection with the home. We are utilizing the same continuous brickwork and taking hints from that time and era. So the architectural intention was to marry that through at the eave, but we are not going right into the roof and disturbing that roof form above. Just regarding your question about the...
Before you move on from that, just a question back to you. You've got a vertical separation between the new and the old, have you not?
Yes, to the west, yes.
And would there be any major architectural issues in lowering it, as was just asked of you by Joe?
Well, it's not a major issue. We are still we are going for a design that does provide.
The question was, is it architecturally achievable to lower the proposed roof below the existing ridge or eave?
If it was to sit directly under the eave, it could be architecturally achieved. yes, and we are currently below the building height. So if it's a matter of just distinguishing that, it could be something where we can do architecturally.
You had another question?
And then and you were going to respond to the eaves of the existing building.
Thank you.
That would be good to hear.
Yeah, so sorry, could you just repeat that question for me, please, about the eave?
It appears to me, just on the drawings, and there's no notation on your drawings at all about the eaves of the existing building. I just want to know that the existing eaves are being retained or made good
Yes.
when you do the work. Is that
Yes,
correct?
certainly. The eaves will be preserved and will be made good. That's correct.
So that will be helped.
The eaves and the
Okay, so that, in my opinion, that will be helped by dropping the new roof underneath the existing eaves to make that work better, in my view.
on the northern eave. Yes, it would.
Yes, that's right.
It would integrate. Yes, correct.
Okay. And I have a further question regarding the glazing to the front of the building. I noticed that some of the applicants, some of the submitters have commented on the fact that the existing glass, which is a yellow coloured tinted glass, is being removed and replaced by clear. Can we please ask why that's being done, given that it's a contributory item, and that the facade and its presentation to the street is the main element we're looking for here?
Yeah, so the Art Deco window bars are being retained. The glass did have some, there was some minor damage to it. It was more to put something in place that was still in the style of that era. We're not looking to change the framework, but the glass was to be a similar obscured rippled effect glass. It's just changing the color of it was what we were after.
Okay, would it be too difficult to retain the existing glass that's there?
Yeah, I don't see it being an issue. I'm happy to discuss that with the owners, but if that's what it comes down to get things moving along, then we'd be happy to reinstate that or keep it intact in its current form.
Sounds good. And just the last comment from regarding the solar and rainwater tanks. I didn't see any of those proposed. Are you intending to have rainwater tanks?
Yes, we do have them, and that's part of our basics and energy requirements. And it is actually it is submerged under the ground in our stormwater design. So maybe if you've had a chance to have a look at the stormwater, I can share that with the panel if you like. But it is in
That's okay. As long as it's happening. And what about solar panels? Any of those proposed?
So any solar panels will be on the northern facade, on the northern part of the roof, so on the rear extension.
Okay, just they're not.
So you would not see that. It won't be seen from the street.
Yeah, that's fine.
So they'd be on the existing building.
The new roof, new flat roof.
They'll be on the new roof. That's correct.
Okay, all right.
And
will they be flush or will they be at a degree?
They'll certainly be flush.
Flush. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
They won't be visible from the parapets that are concealing them.
Good, thank you.
any other questions?
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very fulsome responses. We'll make a determination at the end of the meeting and the result will be posted on the website. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Item 3. I have a submitter registered to speak on 108 Haybury Street, Crow's Nest.
And I'll excuse myself because I'm...
we're losing one of our panel members.
Someone will come and get me at the end.
Yes.
As a perceived interest. I have Mr. John Newman. Are you there, Mr. Newman?
Yes, I am.
Sir, could you address the panel, please?
Thank you, panel. I'm a colleague in the urban planning field of now. It was lodged a submission.
Sorry, you just went all garbled there for a moment. I'm wondering if you can turn your sound up or something.
I'm a colleague in the...
We would like to hear you.
Sorry?
We would like to hear you.
Yes, I hope so. I'm a colleague in the urban planning field of Naomi Fiegel, who has lodged a submission in respect of the proposed neighbouring development. Naomi's on leave and has asked me to speak to emphasise the main points she made in her submission and the views communicate those of Naomi and her husband, John, who was also at this meeting. Naomi and John have lived in their house at 106 Haybury for 30 years and they've raised their family there. They want to stay in the house and are actively involved in the community. As an overall comment, they believe the locality is a high-intensity residential area of small lots where neighbours and the council need to consider the impact of housing alterations and additions on neighbours. I'll now outline the main issues. The first one is errors and lack of details in the plans impacting assessment. To the knowledge of the owners of number 106, no one involved in the application at number 108 has visited number 106, that is to say no council officer, not the adjoining owner and not the architect for the application. Page 5, figure 3, the ground floor plan and figure 4 of the first floor plan do not show the position of the deck at number 106, which is the outdoor living area, or the position of the rear northern wall of the house or the glass windows and doors in that wall. It would appear that only the roof outline is indicated. In this context, the owners of number 106 lack confidence that the impact of the proposed development on number 106 can or have been properly assessed. The second issue is the impacts on amenity of number 106. Page 24 of the council report addresses visual privacy. It states that frosted glazing balustrades of the balcony will minimise potential views from this space. However, the balustrades are only waist high and cannot prevent overlooking of the deck of number 106. Page 36 also considers the visual impact of the first floor balcony. It is claimed that the solid wall on the western boundary of number 106 provides privacy. The balcony extends almost the full width of number 108, and a person anywhere on that balcony can look over and look down onto the deck of number 106. Overlooking is not prevented. The owners do not accept the statement on page 36 that the amenity impacts are considered reasonable and acceptable. The next issue is bulk and scale impacts. Page 25 considers the side setbacks and notes the nearer zero setback to the western side and 1.5 metres to the eastern side. The report says both of these are adequate in maintaining building separation and minimising potential bulk scale overshadowing and privacy impacts. Page 34 and 35 does not provide any further assessment of bulk and scale. The report's statement that the first floor has been set in, articulated and recessed compared to the ground floor has not properly considered the situation for number 106. There is no setback from the boundary and the proposed development extends significantly past the ground floor through the additions of the balcony and the pergola. Key issues here are that the setbacks on the western side and the eastern side are clearly not the same. It's not reasonable to say that the proposed western setback retains the 0 metre of the existing dwelling, as the proposal extends well past the current building and introduces a wall extending over 6 metres above the floor level of the deck on number 106. The bulk and scale of this wall directly and adversely impact significantly on the amenity of the deck. The scale of the pergola structure, again being built with a 0 metre setback, further affects the amenity of the deck as well as the views of the internal area of number 106. The pergola structure has vertical supports on the boundary that are approximately 3.2 metres above the floor level of the deck and a similar height for the horizontal members. The owners consider the 0 metre setback is not acceptable. There are several photos in the submission provided by Naomi, which provided indicative impacts of these things. A couple of other issues: impacts on neighbouring trees. This is discussed in the report. On number 106, there are 30-year-old moraias close to the boundary between 106 and 108. And these trees also contribute to the character of the rear lane. The existing carport is not built on the boundary. So there is concern on the part of the owners that the earthworks for the proposed garage will affect these trees. while page 35 says conditions are recommended to ensure any affected trees will not be impacted by the proposed works, there are no conditions doing this in respect of those moraines on number 106. An appropriate condition is requested. Finally, a couple of engineering matters. Page 37 states additional conditions are recommended to ensure that the state condition and structural stability of immediately adjoining properties are unaffected by the proposed works. Engineering conditions cover an engineering report, dilapidation survey, structural adequacy, and structure, including the adequacy of the existing building, and a geotechnical report. The conditions require that these reports will be provided to the council, but there's no provision for the owners of number 106 Haybury Street to receive copies of the report, and they request that the conditions be amended so that a copy of reports relating to engineering issues are provided to the owners. They're the issues they wanted to raise. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. I'm wondering if Wayne Famillo is there, please.
Yes, I am.
So would you like to address the panel?
Oh, not greatly.
You just here to answer question.
Sorry?
Do you want to address, or are you here to answer questions?
I was primarily here to answer questions, but I will say that John mentioned that neither myself nor the client visited the neighbours. That's actually incorrect. It's probably one of the first things we did do. And primarily we did it because we were talking about the extension of the party wall between the two properties. There is no party wall above the ceiling, so hence there is no fire separation. And that's one of the first things we did and spoke to the clients about. Oh, sorry, the neighbours about.
Thank you. That's fine, thank you. Anything else you'd like to add to that? If not, I'll see if the panel wants to ask you any questions.
No, other than the fact that we had a very close working relationship with Miguel. He's asked us on a number of occasions to modify and change things, which we've done. The client's been very willing to do so. My client is very keen to get on a good relationship with his neighbours. We've modified the application on a number of occasions to satisfy requirements. Currently, we believe we've complied with just about everything that's been asked of us. We haven't been asked to consider anything more. And if that was the case, I'm sure we'd be keen to look at other ways that we can help.
Thank you. And the panel will make a determination at the end of this meeting.
I just have one question, if I may. Yes, sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah. So just one question in respect of the moraines at 106. Is there any certainty that they can be protected in terms of your architectural plans?
Well, I'm not the right person to answer that, unfortunately. I'm not an arborist. But
No, I'm just asking in terms of the proximity of the works.
If you're asking me whether we would be considering narrowing the garage, is that what you're asking?
Well, if it's right on the boundary and there's an existing hedge there, it may have some impacts.
It may or may not. Look,
it needed to be taken. What I'm trying to ask is, for example, you might require some hand excavation or something else in order to be able to retain those moraines.
Yes, certainly in other circumstances where there are the risks to trees and structural root zones, we engage an arborist, and we have undertaken hand excavations under the guidance of an arborist.
Right.
Certainly, I'm sure there'd be an engineering solution around those.
Okay, so you'd have no objection to a condition to that effect?
No, it's pretty standard.
Yep, okay, thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I request an opportunity to be heard.
I'm sorry, who's?
My name is John Fitzgerald. I am an owner of the adjoining property, 106 Haybury Street. I have requested, I put in a request to attend. I'm here, as you can see. Mr. Familio has made some statements with which I don't agree, and I request an opportunity to be heard.
I'll allow you to briefly address the panel. We do have your name recorded, but we have recorded that Mr. Newman was representing you.
That is correct. Yes,
if
that
you
is
feel
correct.
as though he hasn't fulsomely done that, you can briefly address the panel. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only comment I wish to make is that the consultation between Mr. Familio's client and myself and my wife has been limited, and the implication that we were put on notice as to what exactly was going to be happening or was proposed is different to my recollection of events. I've nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further on that item, then I propose to move on to the next item, and we have a representative or a submitter dialing in, do we not? Have they been notified?
Peter? Oh, sorry. Lisa Wilkinson? Yep, she's there. Yep, okay. Yep.
So item 4, I believe on the line or perhaps even on our video, we have Lisa Wilkinson to present to the panel. Is that correct?
Hello, I believe Lisa, this is Gillian Capoletto. I believe Lisa is there, but I'm happy to go for, Lisa's happy for me to go first while she's getting organised. I believe she's online.
Yeah, she is online.
I'm happy to facilitate that and happy to hear from you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the panel, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon. Respecting your time, I'm speaking on behalf of many of the residents in the close vicinity, including a 95-year-old lady, Mrs. Zara Selby, who lives at number 8 Bennett Street and who has actively followed the progress over the last few years. My husband and I own 4 Bertha Road. It's a heritage listed Spanish Mission property, which we're currently restoring and renovating. We share the full back southern boundary of the proposed development. I've lived in the immediate area for over 21 years. So my husband and I have a strong commitment to our special conservation area and what some of our neighbours refer to as their island. We've owned this house for 3 years, and I previously restored a heritage listed house in nearby Harrison Street. When we purchased 4 Bertha Road, we were aware that the subdivision for 8 Bennett Street had been approved, but we weren't concerned as we believed that we would be protected by the council's LEPs and DCPs and that any developer would respect these rules and council would enforce them. We provided a very detailed written submission, and I'll not take your time in repeating all the issues raised in that submission, which I hope you've had the opportunity to read. I would, however, like to raise a small number of important points. Firstly, Mr. McFadden, as an external consultant, has provided a very detailed and excellent report. That report highlights many breaches of the LEPs and DCPs. Now, yeah, my concern is if these council requirements are to have any credibility, they must be adhered to unless there are very strong reasons for flexibility. If they're reasonable, they can't be abused. If they're unreasonable, they need to be changed through a proper consultative process, not through ad hoc decisions. Council's received substantial feedback, council has given substantial feedback to the applicants through the process over the last 2 years. Much of that guidance and advice has not been embraced. This is further highlighted in the most recent communications in March and April this year, when yet another concept design was put forward that did not adequately address council's concerns. Council received 30 submissions, including one from the Harrison Bennett precinct, objecting to this DA. The one submission in favour contends that the number of objections reflects an organised campaign with a lot of misinformation. This claim shows a lack of comprehension of, or quite frankly, the intelligence of the neighbours and the connections and commitment of the property owners to their special heritage and conservation area. In summary, yeah, my husband and I are gutted by the many ways that this proposal will detrimentally impact our property, including our house and the very special grounds and gardens. From our property, the proposed development is a bulky 3-storey glass building, including full view into our living areas and our northern backyard from 2 levels. We strongly support the recommendation for refusal. Thank you.
Thank you. Does your husband wish to speak as well? He's registered to speak.
That actually is not my husband.
It's not
That's the owner of number 21 Burraway,
right.
And he is in the US at the moment.
Okay.
He was planning on trying to log in, but unfortunately, with he's on the East Coast at the moment, and with the time frame, wasn't able to log in. But he did send a comment in to be read to the panel, and
we have read all the
and I'm happy to read it if you want.
No, if it's been sent to us, it's one that we've read, and
no, it was only sent today. It was sent today, and he hoped it would be considered as though he was speaking himself.
Well, we'll read it. If we haven't already read it, we'll read it before concluding this item later this afternoon. But
okay.
I'm sure, as you've observed, the recommendation is as the recommendation is.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wondering if we have our overseas person there.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
It's Lisa.
Yes.
Lisa, yes, we can hear you. Can you?
Hi there, sorry about before.
Can I just say, Lisa, just before you start, can I just ask if you've had the opportunity to read the council officer's report and the recommendation before the panel today?
Yes, I have, which is why I don't want to take up a lot of time. And I have to say, as the owners, myself and my husband, as the owners of number 19, which strangely adjoins the property of number 11, which is an indication of the charming nature of Bennett Street, that there is no number 13, 15 or 17. So number 11 and number 19, which we own, sit right next to each other. So we share an approximately 40-metre long boundary with number 11. Our property straddles both Bennett Street and Bertha Road. So our house sits right in the middle of those 2 blocks of land, and our street frontage on Bennett Street is a lawn tennis court with a full view of our heritage listed property, which was built in 1903. I have put in a full submission, and like so many of our neighbours, feel very aggrieved that there is even a vague possibility that a set of buildings that completely override any height restrictions that the council would like to impose to keep the heritage nature of our very special area. So the building that would sit right next to us actually exceeds the height limit by 28%, which is an indication of a property developer who will never live in the area and is creating a glass building that has no sympathetic value to the very special area that it's being proposed. I also have concerns about the work that would be carried out, that would mean the only truly significant tree on that property is a beautiful magnolia. There is no guarantee that that will be kept, and can I suggest, perhaps cynically, that if these two structures go ahead, there will be a very strong financial imperative for that Magnolia to go, because it sits between the proposed glass buildings and a significant harbour view. So, you know, it also looks into our property significantly, and I think would really significantly affect the beautiful nature of what is a lovely street. And, you know, as somebody who's worked very hard for the last 23 years to only add to the heritage nature of the property that we own in Bennett Street, any suggestion that these two buildings would go ahead would be a grave error in my view. I'm sorry, I get very emotional thinking that there's any possibility that these buildings will go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. Any questions of
No, thank you.
of the panel? Thank you. We have one more speaker, I think, and it looks like is it the Peterson clan?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Is there three of you?
No, my husband's sitting right next to me, but I'm talking on my own. Yes.
Thank you. Would you like to address the panel, please?
Yes, very briefly, because you have my submission. First of all, thank you to the panel and the chairman for hearing us. We object to the development because of the bulk and height of the building, which will block our views of the harbour and the Opera House. We feel that this development is unnecessary in Bennett Street, as there is already enough of a mix of apartments and houses. And as I said, you have my submission, which is in full, and I won't bore you with rereading it. But thank you very, very much for giving us the opportunity to voice our objection. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll consider all of the submissions verbally today before the panel, plus all the written submissions, and indeed the recommendation at the conclusion of the next couple of items. Thank you all for those that submitted. I don't have a representative from the applicant, so we'll move on to the next item. And
this is closed to the public.
This one's closed to the public.
That's the end of the public session.
And I'm just being reminded that that was the end of the public session. Can I thank all of the public that have been present? And again, can I apologise for any sort of mix-up there was earlier? We didn't mean to upset anyone. It was an honest mistake. But at the end of the day, everyone got heard, and that's the main thing. Can I say we'll make a determination on these later this afternoon, and I'll say goodbye to all of those members in the public gallery. Thank you.
So I've put Michael, who was in for the last item, into the waiting room.
Okay. So with the applicant that we've got, Mr. Trident 5, is he going to say something to us?
Yeah, so we're at 102 Carabella now.
And there was a submission on number 102.
Sorry, I've got Hassan.
Yeah, Hassan.
Is Hassan going to say something to us?
I don't think he was on.
He's listed there too.
Greg Payne's submitter.
No?
102 has put in a written submission.
And Greg Payne.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Greg Payne.
Yes, none of them.
102.
So we're not hearing from either of them?
No, he's not
Okay.
speaking as far as I know.
And similarly with item 6, Michael Brown and
Yep, I'll admit him.
Michael Bannock. You go, sorry.
They're being admitted.
So they're here to listen, are they?
Michael Bannock and
Okay, but they're not.
Michael Brown are,
All right, okay, thank you. 102 Carabella Street, Kirribilli.
oh, sorry, no, that's for item 6 there. You just speak for.
There's no one here for.
No one here for,
No one for item.
no one for item 5 here.
So we can move on to item 6.
Okay, right, okay, item 6, thank you.
And we've got Michael Bannock.
Michael, are you there?
You're on mute, I'm sorry.
Michael, did you want to make a comment to the panel or a presentation to the panel, or are you here to ask questions? Answer.
No, like Mr. Chair and councillors, panel members, thank you. I'm just here to answer any questions, basically. We'd like to say thank you to the council officer, Michael Stevenson. He did a great job. We did a lot of additional work to get it over to the line to you, and we thank him for his recommendations.
We love that sort of presentation.
Thanks.
Is Mr. Brown there, or was he in the same sort of?
Yeah, I came in today because Michael Brown was stuck in in court on another project, so he won't be able to make it today.
Not a North Sydney matter, is it?
No, I don't think so.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you for being in attendance. We'll make the deliberations on your matter. You're aware of what the recommendation is, and we'll notify the results towards the end of the day, if not tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you.